to Gamecock Pod Live.
For the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committed to the University of
This is Rodgers again to the 25, 20, 15, 10. Rodgers scores! Jackie Bradley Jr. delivered for the Gamecocks. Lost it up, looking for Kelly. Touchdown! Can you believe it?
And South Carolina is sending shockwaves through the SEC.
Frederick! Plays it in at the buzzer! That's a win! Unbelievable! I don't believe it!
And now, live from Studio 54 of the Gamecock Pod Studios, here's the Cockfather himself, Keith Alsep.
All right, everybody, welcome into Gamecock Pod Live. We have flipped the calendar over. It is no longer October. I hope everyone had a happy Halloween. Some sad news at the Alsep household that I'll share at the end of today's broadcast. But, hey, we've got a great show lined up for you. That man, Chandler Mack, he is back. The 2023 South Carolina Sportscaster of the Year and lead sports anchor at WLTX 19 in Columbia. He will join us in just a few minutes. Always look forward to having him on the program. He really brings it. So let's jump in with our news, notes, and headlines brought to you by Nana's Porch, an award-winning full-service catering company servicing the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. Whatever your catering needs may be, whether it is a banquet, a wedding, a corporate event, Nana's Porch has got you covered. You want to bring in a food trailer, Nana's Porch voted among the top 3 in the Charlotte area by a local newspaper poll. And their award-winning pimento cheese, number 1 and number 2 in the meat and cheese category by the North Carolina Specialty Foods Association. Smoky jalapeno, good. And the regular flavor is great as well. Check them out at nanasporch.com, NANASPORCH.com. Get in touch with my good friend Chris Payne and support this Gamecock-owned and operated business. All right, to football, where Gamecock true freshman Jalen Kilgore has been named one of 14 semifinalists for the 6th annual Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year Award. That was announced by the Maxwell Football Club. The award, which goes to the outstanding freshman player in college football, will be presented at the Maxwell Football Club Awards, along with several other top awards in college and professional football. Kilgore, a 6'1", 210-pound freshman from Eatonville, Georgia, was forced into action in the season opener, much like Nick Eamon-Wari was a year ago, and he has remained in the starting lineup either at safety or nickel every other game. He is second on the team in tackles with 64, including 12 tackles in the first game against North Carolina and a season high 15 tackles at Tennessee and 11 more against Florida. He ranks 5th in the SEC and is tied for 51st in the country with 8 tackles per game, which also ranks 3rd among all FBS freshman players. All right, Gamecock men's basketball. Tonight they host Wofford at 7 p.m. in a charity exhibition game. It will be general admission seating. Tickets are $10. All proceeds from ticket sales will go to the Maui Strong Fund. Okay, there will be no TV for the game, but it will be available on the Gamecock Radio Network, and they will have the live stats up. Grad transfer BJ Mack will square off against his former team tonight. The big man and stretch forward played in 85 games with 69 starts in 3 years at Wofford, averaging over 14 points and 5 rebounds per game. He was all SoCon NABC all-district selection. And last year he averaged 16.6 points and 5.6 rebounds per game. The Maui Fund, which provides financial resources to support the immediate and long-term recovery needs of the people and places affected by the devastating Maui wildfires. For more information, you can just Google the Maui Strong Fund. Some bad news in men's basketball. True freshman Colin Murray-Boyles, the Gamecocks, will be without his services indefinitely as he is battling a case of mononucleosis. He is the first player that I can remember to battle mono since Brian Winters. Back in the 70s when I was a kid, he was my second favorite player on the team along with Kevin Joyce. And then later they added Alex English, but Winters was probably going to be an All-American. He was just a knockdown shooter, and he missed most of his junior year with the case of mono. Hopefully with the advances in medicine, hopefully Colin Murray-Boyles will not be out long. He was a top 100 recruit. He was expected to battle for a starting position and still is. Native of Columbia, but went to Wasatch Academy out in Utah, where he averaged 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game, and went from a borderline Power 5 guy to a top 100 recruit, completely reshaped his body. And so well wishes to Colin Murray-Boyles, and we hope for a speedy recovery, and hopefully they can get him back soon. I think he's going to be a key part of this year's team. Gamecock women's basketball was the talk of the country yesterday as SportsCenter was live in Columbia with Elle Duncan and Debbie Antonelli. They hosted a trick-or-treat. They had an open practice. SportsCenter was there. The bad news for SportsCenter, Camila Cardoso and Ashlyn Watkins, they had class last night, and so they missed all the trick-or-treat festivities as well as the practice. They leave today for Paris, France. They will take on 10th-ranked Notre Dame on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The Gamecocks are number 4 in the coaches poll, number 6 in the AP. Notre Dame number 10. And this could be a battle of, obviously there's a lot of great players on both teams, but maybe the two most dynamic small guards in this class, Hannah Hidalgo and Malaysia Fulwiley, that could be a battle that could play out over the course of the next 4 years. Notre Dame will be without their starting point guard, Olivia Miles. Gamecock should be at full strength. All right, then, of course, Saturday afternoon at high noon on ESPNU, we get the first ever Gamecock on Gamecock Crime as Rich Rodriguez brings the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, now Division I, in to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. It'll be the first time a battle of the Gamecocks. And then last night we had the initial reveal for the college football playoff. Ohio State, number 1. Georgia, number 2. Michigan, number 3. Florida State, number 4. Washington and Oregon right outside of the top 4 at 5 and 6, rounding out the top 10. Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. And, of course, some of those, there's still playoff games that's going to happen, right? Ohio State and Michigan are going to meet. Plus, Michigan, we'll have to get Chandler Mack's take on this Michigan scandal. It's kind of like Find Waldo. Everybody's looking for the dude that's stealing signals at every college football game in the country. Washington and Oregon could meet again in the Pac-12. Well, no, I don't think they can because I think they're both in the same division. Alabama and Georgia could square off in the SEC championship game. So lots of stuff going on, football, hoops, and otherwise. And we'll bring in Chandler Mack right after this commercial message.
If you enjoy listening and watching the Free Wednesday show, now live streaming on YouTube, and would love more Gamecock Pod daily, join our growing Gamecock family by becoming a monthly or annual subscriber. You'll be able to listen to the show every day of the week and listen to guests like J.C. Sherbert, Hale McGranahan, and John Whittle from thebigspur.com, Colin Taylor and Mike Yuva from Gamecock Central, Emily Adams from the Greenville News, Ben Portnoy, Michael Lanana, and Jeremiah Holloway from GoGamecocks.com, Michael W. Bratton, the host of That SEC podcast, and many, many more. As a VIP subscriber, you can join or listen to the weekly live Zoom call with up to 100 of your favorite Gamecocks and friends. After the show is an unrecorded overtime segment where the real scoop gets dropped and discussed. It's like going down to your local pub or sports bar and having a conversation with your Gamecock friends about last week's football game, men's and women's basketball games, and Gamecock baseball. And of course, there's always recruiting to discuss. In addition to the weekly Zoom call, VIP subscribers get the most popular podcast, The Morning After, which is released every Sunday morning during football season, and more VIP perks are in the works. Follow Keith on Twitter at KAllset, or follow the show on Twitter at GamecockPod. Go to the top of the homepage and follow the link. If all else fails, go to patreon.com/GamecockPodDaily. Join now and get up to 3 months free off an annual VIP subscription. You will love it, guaranteed. Now, back to Gamecock Pod Live.
All right, so we're back, and I've added my blazer because I can't have the sharpest dressed man in the Midlands come in. Not at least try to match a little bit. Chandler Mack is back, and what's going on, my friend? Look like we almost have the same color of gray on there.
We do. I see it. I like it, buddy. Yeah, man. Everything's going good, Keith. Got the day off today, so yeah, just kind of chilling and relaxing, man. Everything good with you?
Well, everything's good with me. I don't know if everything's good with Shane Beamer, Clayton White, Dowell Loggins, and particularly Lonnie Teasley's group has turned into a MASH unit. So Halloween was last night. I take it you were at Colonial Life Arena with Dawn Staley. Were you able to kind of talk to Elle Duncan a little bit. She's always looking good.
I know, yeah. She is fantastic. Yeah. We talked a little bit, but what you see is what you get, Keith, with her. I mean, like the bright personality that she has on television, that's exactly who she is in person. I mean, she took time to talk to a lot of the reporters that were there just to give them advice and all of that. Man, I mean, she's a fantastic anchor, a fantastic journalist, and just even more of a fantastic person. But it was a good time. It was a really good time. I didn't go as anything. Dawn Staley loves Halloween. I felt so bad. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be that guy to like dress up. I wore orange though. I made sure I had my orange turtleneck. But yeah, it was a really good time. Really awesome event. I'm really glad that they did something like that. It was really dope.
Yeah. So as a USC alum, I have nothing orange in my closet, but it was for the season. I get it.
Exactly.
Right?
That's it.
It was for Halloween.
Exactly. It's the only day of the year that I'll wear orange, to be honest. Yeah, like as a USC alum too, it's tough to wear orange. Then that's literally what me and my anchor JR we were talking about. He wore his orange tie, and we were like, yeah, man, he's a diehard Gamecock fan for those who don't know. And he was like, yeah, this is the only day of the year I will ever wear orange. I was like, yeah, it's insane, but yeah, had to do it for the season.
All right, so they have all these pictures where you try to find the hidden figure, and now it's this assistant at Michigan that's an analyst, right, who's been flying all over the country and hiring a team, like TMZ Light with his own video team, going around stealing signals from everybody. There was a story last week that even connected it to South Carolina because, Shane Beamer was fined $25,000 for talking to, I guess, the color analyst from Wake Forest in 2014 when that scandal came out in 2016. And Clayton White worked for Jim Harbaugh at Stanford. And, South Carolina gets absolutely hammered by Florida, scores no offensive points.
Right.
Then they play Tennessee. And at least according to the author, for the first time all year, South Carolina wore wristbands on defense. But, bro, I got to say, Tennessee still scored 38, okay?
Exactly. Still scored 38. Yeah.
And Clemson scored 30, but, they tried to make it out like, DJU didn't have receivers running wide open and just couldn't hit the broad side of the barn when he missed some dudes running wide open, and he wasn't even in the same zip code with a lot of those throws. I think that writing was on the wall at Clemson. And so what's your take on this?
Honestly, Keith, it is a pretty wild situation. Back to the Tennessee fans. I mean, I get it. You support your team and all that, but man, I tweeted it. I was like, dude, you guys still aren't over this? I mean, it happened. You got your payback this year. It's all good, right? Like, just it's time to move on. All right, Gamecocks beat you 63-38. It's okay. No problem with it. But yeah, the mission, the scandal itself, I mean, the way it's taken over, the world of college football is wild. And then the fact that you look at the college football playoff rankings, clearly they didn't care. They're like, hey, we all Michigan's undefeated. We're gonna make them number 2, make Ohio State number 1. Obviously, probably what's going to happen is whoever wins that game later in the season is going to be the team that makes it to the playoff. I don't necessarily see them going with both of them, especially if Washington stays undefeated and if Oregon continues to do what they're doing. And honestly, I know Texas lost to Oklahoma, Keith, but I really would love to see Texas in the playoff. I think they are a really solid playoff team. If not a playoff team, then at least 5th or 6th. But yeah, it sucks that they lost to Oklahoma. And then what happened to Oklahoma? I mean, yeah, just losing to Kansas, who I think are a pretty good team, definitely a good team. But if you're Oklahoma, knowing what was at stake, you had to win that game. But yeah, the scandal, man, it's definitely a wild thing. But like I said, clearly the committee was like, nah, we still gonna go with Michigan.
So I'm a subscriber to The Athletic. They have an article up this morning. I'm not going to give it away because it is behind a paywall, but they interviewed like 50 different FBS coaches across the country, all, under the guise of anonymity. And some think it's very possible Jim Harbaugh doesn't know. Some say, well, there's very little chance that he doesn't know. Some think he probably doesn't know. And so there's a whole gamut of it. But I have a hard time, just like going back to the Louisville thing with Rick Pitino. Okay, I coached basketball in college, prep school, high school. That's 13 to 15 guys sitting on your bench. It's not 120, okay, like in football. You've got, 3 or 4 assistants. Football, you have 10 plus, 30 or 40 off the field people. Some of the guys you don't even know. I mean, I remember my friend Brad Lawn telling me at Florida State, they could barely fit all the guys in the meeting room. They'd just all be sitting around the wall. And he's like, hell, I don't even know half these guys' names.
Exactly.
And we know at Florida, Billy Napier's got like over 100. So there's no chance he knows everybody's name, right? No. Unless he's just like, the first day of school, the teacher calls a roll, and they keep calling the roll until they figure out who you are, right? Mm-hmm. Over time. And so I don't know what to think, but I seriously doubt anything is going to happen. And just like with Auburn and Cam Newton, scam Newton, if they would have been, 8-3 and not playing the SEC championship game instead of undefeated, that would have probably turned out differently. If it was Michigan State or Minnesota that done this, or Oklahoma State, like with Dez Bryant, right? We see how the NCAA is with blue bloods versus non-blue bloods.
Yeah.
Or getting blood pressure up over nothing, or what do you think?
Yeah, or I mean, you can look at what happened with like Johnny Manziel, right? I mean, the whole signing autographs thing that he was doing. Ultimately, we were all watching the Netflix special. If y'all haven't, be sure to check it out. It's really, really awesome to get his take on everything. But yeah, ultimately, we found out he was doing this, and it was under the table, and he was making this money. He only got suspended for 1 half football. Why? He was the Heisman Trophy winner. He was in all of these, different things. Like, he was so important to college football. They were like, yeah, I mean, we got to punish you, bro, but we just going to give you this half suspension, and you can come back, do your own, do your thing after that. But yeah, I just think, like you said, these blue bloods, or if the NCAA knows, okay, we could make money off this, and if there's no, enough proof. I mean, there's proof, but there's not necessarily, okay, this guy is definitely guilty of this, which is the case with Harbaugh, right? Like, we really don't know how much he knew, or if he knew about it at all, because like you mentioned, there's could be 100, 150 staffers that he doesn't even know their names. He may know their face, but yeah, don't know who they are from a can of paint, right? So because of that, you can't definitively say, okay, yeah, we got to punish you and we got to punish your program with, all these different fines and infractions, all these different things. So yeah, it's it's definitely an interesting thing for sure. Yeah, definitely interested to see what ends up happening, if anything. But like you said, I'm not sure anything's going to happen. If it hasn't happened already, or if we haven't gotten clear-cut proof that this person knew in a very high place yet. I don't know if we're going to get it.
I mean, look, they're you can go all the way back to Watergate and Nixon, right? Like they want the top guy to be insulated so he has plausible deniability, right? Mm-hmm. Insulated. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, the analyst, he is not on a headset. And so he's standing there talking to the defensive coordinator. Harbaugh's got on a headset, right? Or the offensive coordinator. But you don't necessarily know that guy is what he's telling the coordinators. And then the coordinators are relaying it on the headset. And so all Harbaugh is hearing is them. Now, could he have known? I mean, look, let's face it. He just basically – his answer for the recruiting infractions was, I have no recollection of that, or I don't remember, right? And so I think the NCAA has no subpoena power, okay? So they can't get bank statements, money transfers, emails, text messages. So unless the FBI is involved in this thing, I hate to say it, but it's just going to be another case of a blue blood getting away with whatever, they want to do. There might be some secondary violations or even some restrictions or penalties after. If Michigan would win the
slap on the wrist, yeah.
But so we'll see. Cocktober, we talked about it. Said the Gamecocks needed to get Florida and then get one of two on the road. Cocktober is dead.
Cocktober's dead.
0-3 with the big game, and you're going to circle in the Garnet Sharpie, and that is the Florida game where you had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and it should have been 11, which would have completely changed the last drive. Then you go to Missouri, you're not competitive at halftime. I was in College Station on Saturday. Gamecocks did hang in there. We did see some signs of life, and quite frankly, I was shocked at how the defense played, particularly early in that game.
Really well. Yeah.
But then, man, Spencer Rattler, 3 straight drives, 3 straight intentional grounding penalties, 3 straight punts from deep in your own territory. And even though you are up 7-0, it's 21-7 at half, but the Gamecocks battled into the fourth quarter and had it to a 1-score game, and then they just couldn't get the Aggies off the field.
Yeah, it's crazy, Keith. It's like this team they can't put a 4-quarter game together on all 3 phases. It's like, okay, Spencer can have a great game, but maybe the run game's not that great, right? Or, hey, the defense, like you mentioned, played great in the first quarter, even at times in the second quarter, but Spencer has the 3 intentional grounding penalties, right? Or you have the blunders on special teams. I'm confident Kai's going to turn things around over the final 4 games, but let's be real, he hasn't been what we anticipated him being, given the fact that he was, I think, the only preseason All-American, first-team All-American that the team had coming into the season. He needs to be better, and like I said, I'm confident that he will be better over the next 4. But it goes back to what I was saying, just putting all 3 phases, defense, special teams, and offense together, this team just hasn't done that. And I think that's the biggest shocker for me during this 2-6 start. And you talk about big circle on that Florida game. You win that Florida game, all of a sudden you have a little bit of momentum going into Missouri. I don't know if you beat Missouri, because Missouri's a damn good football team. And, hey, going there, it's going to be tough for you to beat them, even with that momentum you would have got if you beat Florida. But I don't know if you get beat, what was the final score, 30-12 or something like that? I don't know if you get beat like that against Mizzou had you beat Florida. That was just so demoralizing on so many levels. It was after a bye week, right? So you thought, okay, coming in, homecoming, you should be amped up for that game, and they were. They were up 37-27 with like 4 minutes and 54 seconds left in the game, and then you just couldn't get a stop, right? Go back to the Texas A&M game, same thing, right? Like when you needed a stop, you couldn't get it. And you kind of got them. You held them to a field goal, and they did outscore. The Gamecocks did outscore the Aggies 10-9 in the final 2 quarters. But you couldn't get that stop to keep it a one-possession game. So that your offense got back on, when your offense got back on field, it's a 2-possession game. Your whole mentality, it changes. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think they can turn it around. I mean, you look at this, your Final 4 games, you're going up against 3 teams that you did beat last year in Clemson, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky, albeit they're different teams than what they were last year, but you have the confidence that you can beat them. You're at home. The Gamecocks are 12-5 under Shane Beamer at Williams-Brice Stadium. We're not going to mention the road record. We don't have to. That don't matter right now. But you have that confidence that, hey, you can beat these teams, and we're back home. We should be okay. But yeah, 2-6, man. I can honestly say, Keith, I did not see this coming. The worst I saw when we looked at the schedule early in the season, I saw maybe 3-5, but probably 4-4. I thought they could have beat North Carolina, and I definitely felt like they could have beat Florida, given the fact that it was after the bye week, and you lose those 2 games. And got what we got right now, 2-6. And Bill Parcells said it. I'm a Giants fan. Bill Parcells always said it. You are what your record says you are. And this team is a 2-6 football team right now.
No doubt about it. So you look, and here's the thing. You mentioned it. South Carolina is not playing complimentary football. You finally get the defense holding up a little bit, and then the offense completely slips, and Rattler has those 3 penalties, which were all legitimate. I thought he was in the pocket. I had a great view of all of those, but, Kai Kroger didn't help out with a couple of short punts. Here's the thing. South Carolina's first 7 Power 5 opponents, their record sits at 41-15. South Carolina's combined opponents' record is 48-16. That is, by one of the computer-generated models, the most difficult schedule in the country South Carolina's faced. Obviously, Furman's in there. That's the only non-Power 5 the Gamecocks have faced. 48-16, Power 5's 41-15, but the last 3 Power 5s, just 11-14 and 18-16 when you put Jacksonville State at 7-2 with Rich Rodriguez, who is an offensive guru and has multiple Power 5 stops. I mean, let's face it, hell, he flew to Columbia before the Gamecocks hired Will Muschamp to try to talk Ray Tanner into hiring him. And when they wouldn't do it, then they put out a statement saying he turned the job down when he never even got offered the job.
Yeah.
I mean, look. That dude is a character. He is a great football coach.
He knows football, yeah.
I will say I have a friend of mine who is a Division I coach, and he told me many years ago, and he is someone that would have intimate knowledge of this. He would not send his worst enemy's child to play for Rich Rodriguez.
Oh, man.
Take that for what it is.
Yeah, dang.
But, hey, this week it starts at – here's the thing, though, Chandler. No margin for error, and how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? That was the focus of the press conference. Shane Beamer, we'll see, the coordinators are meeting with the media now as we're live. You have to take it one day at a time, one game at a time. You can't get caught looking ahead because there's just no margin for error with this team because the offensive line's a mash unit. You don't have Juice Wells. Okay. Teams have figured out a way to limit Xavier Legette, particularly the Power 5 teams. Jacksonville State is a very explosive offense and the second fastest tempo team in the country, only behind Tennessee, and they're in the top 5 in the country in explosive runs.
Yeah.
And South Carolina's going to have their hands full this weekend, I think, especially with it being an early start, right? Like as a road team, you want those early noon games. You don't want the night games with the hostile home crowd. I mean, look, bro, I don't know how many times you've been to College Station, but they do a lot of really weird stuff there. Then if it wasn't college football, it could definitely be considered a cult. But that crowd really wasn't into it on Saturday at 11 a.m. local time. And that helped the Gamecocks. And then I think they kind of woke up and, Texas A&M's front seven is phenomenal, and South Carolina just had some complete, in basketball, you call them a blow-by, right? When a guy goes past his defender for a layup. There were some blow-bys by the offensive line because those guys were on top of Rattler before he even had a chance.
Yeah, and you talk about that, Keith. I mean, that's been the case with this team, right? They've allowed 34 sacks, which right now is 13th in the SEC behind Alabama, of all people. That really shocked me when I found that stat. But the 13th in the SEC, they're 125th out of 130 FBS teams in sacks allowed. I mean, it's not good. But when you think about it, you got 8 different starting combinations on the O-line. I mean, we touched on it earlier. I mean, Lyon Teasley and Dow, I mean, they really had to just figure stuff out because all of these injuries, and then you're having to play guys like Tree and Tro who are young. You probably didn't even anticipate these guys really getting significant playing time outside of games like, well, before we knew Jacksonville State was going to be a 7-2 team. Outside of that game, maybe Furman, you probably were like, yeah, we're probably not going to play them that much, but just sporadically. But no, now you're starting these guys. You're really depending on these guys. And, I think that's just, that makes up for a lot of those sacks. And Spencer had said it too. Some of those sacks are on him. He needs to get the ball out. He needs to roll out, do things like that. The running backs have mentioned it too, like, hey, we need to maybe block better when we're asked to pass block. But yeah, man, I mean, it's just you really don't know what this offense can really be because of that uncertainty and the inconsistency on the offensive line and the depth of the offensive line. I mean, when you look at, I think 11 of the 20 scholarship offensive linemen have at some point in the season been on the injury list or in the injury report. I mean, that's just some of that's just, that's just bad luck. I mean, you can't even predict that. So, but on the flip side, it's like, yeah, Spencer still is one of the top passers in the SEC, in the country, in my opinion, as far as throwers of the football. Mario Anderson has really came on strong as a RB1. He's got 427 rushing yards in the last 5 games, averaging 5 yards a carry. I think I saw that he's top 15 in the SEC right now in total rushing yards, which is amazing considering, once again, really didn't play that much in the first 3 games, and all of that's basically in the last 5 where you're playing against really good competition, right? I mean, you're playing against Mississippi State, who, yeah, you beat them, but they're no slouch defensively. You're playing against Tennessee, Florida, and then Texas A&M. I mean, you're doing that, and Mizzou. You're doing that against really good teams. So, yeah, I think it kind of leaves you like, man, why didn't you start playing Mario, in the beginning? But I think the reality was he needed time to get his body right and get used to playing on the Division I level from the Division II level. But now, okay, you're seeing, he's the real deal. And I think that, once again, back to what I was talking about earlier, that gives you hope going forward in these next 4 games. And as far as, you mentioned how teams have figured out how to stop Xavier, that is definitely true. But I think the good thing about that is now you're seeing guys like Nicholas Harbor and even Tyshawn Russell. He needs to work on catching the football, which I'm sure he will. He's just a freshman. That's what we all got to remember. It takes time. I mean, we saw with Nick. Dropped that pass on 3rd down on the very first drive, came back and ended up leading the team with 6 catches for 59 yards, right? So it takes time with these guys, and I have confidence that Tyshawn is going to, get in the lab and do what he needs to do, and is going to start catching footballs over these next 4 games. And, I think that's going to be really good. Shane did talk about Juice yesterday and said that he's working his way back, but, maybe let's hope to see him for the Kentucky game. I don't know if we can. I don't think we're definitely not going to see him this weekend. And I don't know if we're going to see him against Vanderbilt, but Kentucky, I'm looking at that game. I'm saying that's when we could possibly see Juice again. And hopefully for that game, the Gamecocks will be 4-6, and they can win it, be 5-6. And then, wow, we really got a really big one against Clemson that last Saturday of the regular season. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, back to the way we started this, like that offensive line, that's going to be the key. It's just, can you protect Spencer Rattler? Can you continue to run block for Mario Anderson and even to carry on Joyner and Juju McDowell out the backfield? If you can do that, or at least be a little bit more consistent with that, then I think this team really has a good chance of winning their last 4 games. And you hope, okay, you're going to get guys back from injury, and that can help with that.
All right, so we'll address the injuries in a second, but let me tell everybody about my good friend Brent Skinner down at BP Skinner Clothiers. At BP Skinner, we are building our reputation on the perfect fit of trust, quality, service, and style. It's our privilege to provide you professional and individual attention to help create a wardrobe that distinctly identifies you. Excellence is their passion, and they strive to make quality and service as exceptional as their clients. Brent Skinner, a Gamecock graduate, just like the 2 of us, has been building relationships and serving clients for over 17 years. He opened BP Skinner in 2012. It is a family-owned and operated business, and now located in the heart of Columbia's historic Vista at 1003 Gervais Street. Brent provides clients with the best quality clothing at a fair price. Whatever your wardrobe needs may be, maybe you're just tall and lanky, or maybe you're square, or everybody's different. Maybe you just can't find stuff that fits you the way you want it to off the rack. Give Brent a call and set up an appointment, and they have an outstanding line of Gamecock clothing, the Holderness and Bourne collection. I'm wearing a pullover right now. They've got them in garnet and black. Tremendous polos that I was sporting in College Station on Saturday. Go check them out at BP Skinner Clothiers, located in the heart of the Vista. Go to bpskinnerclothiers.com and click on the link to make an appointment today. Man, their stuff is outstanding, whether it's shirts, vests, shoes, ties, slacks, sport coats, suits. They got it all covered, as well as a unbelievable line of Gamecock clothing at BP Skinner Clothiers, located in the heart of the Vista. You'll never meet a nicer guy than Brent Skinner. I urge all you folks listening live and over all podcast platforms, support this Gamecock owned and operated business. All right, Chandler, back to the Gamecock defense. Gamecock defense in 10 of the last 11 Power 5 games have surrendered 30 points or more. Going back to the Florida game from last year, the number one team in the country, Georgia, in Athens, that's the only team that hadn't gotten to 30.
Yeah,
That is amazing. I will say this. I didn't know whether there was a change in play callers on Saturday calling the defense. I love seeing them mix up their fronts and personnel groupings. They finally found a way to get Jaron Willis on the field. I said it during the bye week. I thought he was a guy, if nothing else, he can get there. He is fast, twitchy. He's a guy that can line up outside, play in space, and rush the passer and get there. And we saw Tyreek Johnson have his best game of his career as a Gamecock. Nick Barrett played well. A number of guys played well. Judge Collier played the first half as O'Donnell Fortune was suspended. And then I got to get your take on this because I read the rule yesterday on the podcast. I've been officiating high school football for 5 years in Texas, which our rule book is the NCAA rule book. I've never seen a targeting called when a guy gets hit below the shoulders. And DQ Smith, Shiloh Sanders, I thought on your Twitter feed, he hits a guy with his shoulder to shoulder, and they suspend him for targeting. Maybe they say the guy was a defenseless player. I could go with that, but when you read the rule, there has to be a crouch, a launch, an upward launch, right? Yeah. It has to meet multiple elements. And for them to not call it on the field and the replay guy to call it in, and then for Shane Beamer to say they just upheld it, I thought that was weak sauce. Like if that dude played at Georgia or Alabama and they're playing LSU Saturday night at 8 o'clock on CBS, and that was an All-American player, he ain't suspended for that game, in my opinion. Maybe by a technicality you could call that, but that is not the spirit or the intent of the targeting rule, nor the correct application of the rule, unless you're just don't really understand football. I thought it was a football play.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, I thought it was a football play too, Keith. And then, back to the Shiloh Sanders, it was the same thing, right? I think, you saw the contact with the helmet, but he wasn't aiming at his helmet. He literally did everything right. You're taught, teaching kids now, lead with you, like hit with your shoulder and hit them right here. And they did that, right? So, I don't really get it. And then, again, to suspend them, for that game, and by the way, you're suspended for the entire first half of the next game. I just think that's a lot. Now I want, what's your take on the rule as a whole? We're going to kind of flip things here. I got a question for you. What's your take on the rule as a whole? Because Mike, when he asked Shane this question yesterday, he really touched on it very well. He was like, it should be a level. Like maybe it should be a levels to it. Like, like if you lead with the helmet directly, you hit the guy with the helmet. Yeah, that's a suspension that's an ejection for the game, suspension for the first half. But if it's a ticky-tack or close, like, you did everything right, but you still made contact with the helmet. Maybe you're just ejected for this game, but you can play the next week. What's your take on that? Because I kind of like it to be that way. But as someone who's officiated and knows the rule like the back of your head, what's your take on the targeting rule, and should there be levels to it?
So that was actually a rule change discussion for the NCAA, that they were going to look at an unintentional targeting where a guy like the DQ Smith play, I mean, with the Shiloh Sanders, I think, it could have been because they ruled the guy's a defenseless player, because you have to be at 10-2 and have a chance to defend yourself before you get hit. It was not head-to-head, but it was high, close to the neck. DQ Smith, I've never seen a guy called for targeting hit when you hit below the shoulder pad, like your chest, sternum plate on your shoulder pads. I think there should be, with instant replay and everything else at the college level and in high school, because we don't have the benefit of replay, there is a non-flagrant and a flagrant. And so for it to meet the level of a flagrant, there has to be a crouch and an upward launch with the crown of the helmet. And it has to be high contact, like a quarterback going into a slide and a guy diving into him, or a player crouching and moving upward to really rock a guy before he has a chance to defend himself. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are the flagrant targetings that warrant immediate ejection as long as they meet. Was it head-to-head contact? Was there a crouch, an upward launch? Did the guy spring into him? And was he a defenseless player? Did he not have the opportunity to defend himself?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, and Steve Shaw is the only guy I know that was so bad at his job, the SEC promoted him out of the head of SEC officials to being the head of all NCAA officials.
Agree.
I thought that should have been a rule change. And when the rule book came out, they didn't. And with replay, you should be able to tell and determine what is a flagrant versus a non-flagrant targeting. And I just thought, had Shiloh Sanders gone low on a guy like that, I don't think they had any case. Just like, to me, that's not the spirit of the rule. The rule, it's a safety rule.
Yeah.
And it is to prevent concussions, serious injuries, CTE, etc. Every rule change that's been made up until this year, where now, when the ball goes over the punter's head, it's a UIL exception. It used to be, as long as the punter was in the tackle box, even if the ball went over his head and he chased it back 20 yards, if he turned around and punted it and you hit him, it was roughing the punter. Now, as soon as the ball goes over his head, the tackle box disintegrates, just like when the football leaves the tackle box for blocking below the waist. And the punter basically becomes a defenseless player. And all that's going to take is for one high-profile kid like Dicker the kicker from Westlake, who was at Texas, and now he's in the NFL, or a guy like a Ryan Suckup, or a preseason first-team All-American, or a high school All-American punter, to get a serious injury, and then they'll change that rule back.
Absolutely.
But that's the only rule that has gone against player safety in the last 20 years. And so, maybe you uphold the suspension for the half, but not for the entire, for it to carry over. I don't know. Exactly. But the proposed rule would be that if it was deemed to be non-flagrant, it would just be a 15-yard penalty and the player's first targeting. And then if there was another one, then you would be ejected, just like getting two unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So that's what we got there.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, and that one I like that one. I like the flagrant one, kind of like that. Like okay, non-flagrant, and then the other one I like that. I would have preferred that, but yeah, I mean if they denied it, then hopefully maybe within the next couple of years they can revisit it.
All right, so let's talk about the health of this team. Shane Beamer said, it's possible Rashawn Lee could be back this week. Casey Henry's getting closer. I think it'll be Vanderbilt at least before he's back. But if they get Rashawn Lee back, with the struggles Nick Gargiulo's had with some low snaps, which there have been multiple low snaps, do you put him back at center or do you keep him at right tackle?
I would keep him at right tackle, honestly. I mean, I know Nick has definitely struggled, and I think, he's definitely on a very short leash as far as him playing center. But I think we saw, in the first game of the new look offensive line combo with Nick at center and then Rashawn at right tackle, dude, first 3.5 quarters, everything looked great. Well, first 3 quarters before Rashawn went down, everything was smooth. So I think you kind of figured that out, and you can make that work. I think now, maybe because I know Nick and Rashawn, they're very tight. So hopefully this week they've been like, Rashawn's like, let me take you under my wing a little bit. Let me help you out with like snapping and things like that. But I like that. I like having Nick at center and then Rashawn at right tackle. But again, very short leash with Nick at center.
I agree, because you put a true freshman between a captain at Yale and a guy that graduated with a double major and a veteran player in Rashawn Lee, right? And then at left guard, I don't think we're going to see Trey Jones for a couple weeks. I think you probably have to go back with Ja'Kai Moore there, who started at left tackle until there was an injury, right, to Trey Jones. Then he had to move to guard, and they put Big Tree in, and he finished out the game and played pretty well. But, that gives you a veteran player in Ja'Kai Moore who's played a lot of football and has started at a lot of positions next to another true freshman at left tackle.
Yeah.
And that's the position, left guard, that Ja'Kai played last year when South Carolina played their best football. It was Jalen Nichols and him holding down that left side. So if you could get that offensive line right, and then you could get Juice Wells back, I'd really like to see him back against Vanderbilt just to shake off some rust.
Yeah.
I think South Carolina then becomes a very difficult offense to defend, provided the offensive line play holds up, because Mario Anderson is becoming that guy. I still wish they had, a second pitch there, right? Like I love to carry on in the Wildcat. I think that is his role.
Yeah.
But man, if you had DJ Braswell coached up and ready to go, you would really be able to put more speed on the field. Hopefully Amarian Brown is back. If you could have Amarian Brown, Juice Wells, and Xavier Legette with your tight ends the last 2 or 3 games, I think you can score a lot of points.
Yeah. And threaten Nick Harbor.
Yes.
Nick Harbor doing what he's been doing. I mean, I think you really got a lot of potential. Like you mentioned, if you can get all those guys back, and I definitely want to see them, use the DK out the Wildcat more. I mean, it's been working out a lot in goal line situations, but I wouldn't mind seeing that on, a little bit more on third down. And when you're not at the goal line, like, hey, let's try to just do this on a third down, even if he just hands the ball off, just to give the defense a different look. I think that would be really, really dope. Maybe doing sets where DK's in the Wildcat, Mario is next to him and Juju's next to him, right? Just to change it up. So now you got 3 guys who can run the ball and a guy who can throw the ball in DK. So you really have no idea as a defense what to expect. So yeah. I mean, I think the potential of this offense, if you get Juice Wells back, if you get Xavier Legette healthy, get AB healthy, and Nick Harbor continues to ascend and rise the way he has been. Get Trey Knox healthy because he played, but he was a little banged up against Texas A&M. So you get him healthy, continue to use Josh Simon out of that, as your second tight end. I think this guy is literally the limit. We hear that a lot, but I think with this offense and with the way Spencer has been throwing the football this season, I think this guy really can be the limit for this team.
All right, so we'll see Gamecocks versus Gamecocks. It's not a spring game. It's the first time ever there'll be Gamecock on Gamecock crime on the beautiful grass at Williams-Brice Stadium at high noon. Rich Rod and Shane Beamer, and I had Nick Harbor in my notes. You're absolutely right. You got to give Justin Stepp a lot of credit with him. I think Justin Stepp has gotten a lot of undue criticism the first couple of years because in recruiting it was so difficult to overcome Captain Dumbass, as we refer to him on the pod here, the former offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He was flat out told by multiple wide receivers, and one of them was Mazeo Bennett, which I think was the hair that broke the straw that broke the camel's back. I just can't play in this offense. Antonio Williams, same thing. I mean, imagine if you had that cat.
Oh, man, that man's problem. Trust me. Yeah. Hope he gets healthy. But, man, that dude went right. Telling you, beast, man. Yeah.
But Nicholas Harbor, his development, him running after the catch, making contested, tough catches now, the concentration, I'm encouraged for his future. There were some people that were, it's always a massive overreaction on every play. Oh, he's a bust. He's going to be a bust.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced that his best position still may not be as a pass rusher, but I've been totally impressed with the job this dude has done, in particular the last couple of weeks at the wide receiver position. And I think that bodes well for November when you really need him. And now he's overtaken Omega Blake in that starting lineup along with Xavier Legette and Amarian Brown. And so I think that just makes you a little bit deeper along with Tyshawn Russell, who I still think is going to be a dynamic player at South Carolina. But you really need Juice Wells back, in my opinion, for those to win those last 2 games, because then it's pick your poison. You can't double team Xavier Legette and Juice Wells, and then, oh, by the way, Amarian Brown may be still the quickest, fastest person on the field.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, like you mentioned with Nick Harbor, got a 6'4", 245-pound athlete that at any given point can just run down the field and beat all of us, right? So, getting Juice Wells back is going to be key. But, man, like you said, it's you could really do a lot of great things if you get Juice back. And then not to mention what you got going on with the running game, like I said, with Mario Anderson running the ball the way he's been running it, and the threat of DeCarrion Joyner. Is he going to throw the ball? Is he going to catch the ball? Is he going to run the ball? That bodes well for you if you're the Gamecocks. But it's definitely an exciting thing and an exciting thought. But I think first step, definitely beat Jacksonville State this Saturday and then beat Vanderbilt. And like you said, Kentucky game. Hey, let's see what happens. Kentucky and Clemson, definitely let's see what happens. But man, it's definitely gonna be a fun one for sure. a fun finish.
Let's switch gears just for a few minutes if you have time.
Yeah.
It's basketball season. The men are facing Wofford tonight in an exhibition game. All proceeds from the ticket sales will go to the Maui Strong Relief Fund for the immediate and long-term rebuilding of that beautiful place, due to the destructive fires from a few months ago. We just found out Gamecocks bad news. True freshman Colin Murray Boyles is going to be out indefinitely with mononucleosis, and well before your time. But the last player I remember getting a case of mono at South Carolina was Brian Winters, and he missed most of his junior season. But I mean, that was like almost 50 years ago. Hopefully, medicine has progressed enough to where they can get a handle on this. But still, I think it will be a process to get his strength and everything back, because it just drains you.
Yeah, that's why I've been told. I've personally never had it. I've never had mono, but I've been told it's a draining thing. I think the last big name guy that I remember getting it was Sam Darnold with the Jets back in, I want to say 2020 or 2019. He got it, and he was out for like 4 weeks and came back, was never really the same that season. So yeah, hopefully Colin, again, like you said, medicine has improved and all that. And hopefully Colin can come back and be strong. But yeah, definitely a big loss. But I like the team. I mean, overall, I've been telling people that it's going to be hard for them to make the big NCAA tournament, right? But I think, okay, just be 500, right? Beat the teams you're supposed to be in your non-conference schedule, get to your conference schedule, and just be respectful. And I think a lot of Gamecock fans will be perfectly fine with that. I think the fact that Gigi was great last year. He was fantastic in the role that he played, and given the fact that he was 17 when the year started, all the pressure of the world, being the hometown hero and all of that was on him. And yeah, he had his moments, right? But overall, he was your leading scorer, and I wish him nothing but the best in Memphis. But again, he was a 5-star player, one of the most highly talented players the team has had in the last 30, 40 years, right? That's a lot of pressure, especially for a first-year head coach in Lamont Harris, right? And now you don't have that pressure on this team anymore. You can go out there and you can really play free and loose because, hey, you're picked to finish last in the SEC, right? No one's expecting you to do these great things. So you tell guys like Michi Johnson, Josh Gray, just Miles Stute, who's coming from Vanderbilt. You tell these guys, Zachary Davis, you tell them, hey, guys, Jacoby Wright, hey, just play free and loose, man. No one's expecting you to do great things. So just have fun out there, honestly. And I think that's the right mindset to have when you don't have those, like, highly talented players. It's just, hey, no, Michi, when I talked to him at Media Day, he was like, look, no one's expecting us to do all these things. So we're just ready to, shock the world in a way, and really just, not shock the world, but not shock ourselves, because we genuinely feel like we can win every game that we play. And like I said, don't know if you're going to do that, but I think you're going to have a chance, and you're going to be in a lot of the games that a lot of people may not anticipate you being in, just off of the heart and grit that you plan on showing on the court.
I mean, no doubt about it. To me, this is a much deeper, older, more experienced team. You add Talon Cooper, who is one of the top assist guys in the country at Minnesota, Miles Stute, who is an SEC wing player, BJ Mack, all SoCon big man that can step out and shoot, that can score from the elbow, the low post, or the 3-point line. Stephen Clark has been a surprising player, probably going to end up in the starting lineup tonight in the absence of Colin Murray Boyles. And then, like you said, Jacoby Wright, I thought he was outstanding off the ball last year. Now Michie Johnson can play off the ball. And so can Jacoby Wright at times. The toughest injury to overcome for a basketball player is probably the Achilles injury. I don't know what they're going to get from Ebo. I don't know if he'll be the same player he was. I wish that was the case, that he would be that same level of athlete, but he's still a very cerebral 6'6" experienced guy that can play multiple positions. And you still got your big rim protector in Josh Gray.
Ew.
And so far, I hadn't mentioned the BBV at all, right? Which is probably for some Gamecock fans a good thing. Excuse me. And I keep hearing this true freshman Morris from Finland has gained weight. The original plan was for him to redshirt, but I had John Whittle on last week. He said he would not be a bit surprised if he earns playing time because he's long. He can play defense. He's got an offensive skill set. He's, gained weight and grown stronger. And so to me, I think this should be a better team simply because of the older pieces you've added, and Michie can play off the ball.
Yeah.
And you do have the element of surprise. Nobody's looking forward to welcoming G.G. Jackson to college basketball this year because he's in the G League.
Yep.
But, man, he would have looked a lot better as a sophomore in that Gamecock uniform. I know that.
Yeah, but I get it, man. How to get, that's it. It's just, hey, I can get drafted right now. Let me just go ahead and go get drafted. And yeah, I'm sure he's gonna do great things in Memphis for sure, man. He's good. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. Comes from a great family. And yeah, man, wish him nothing but success for sure, man. But yeah, like you said, I was like that too. I was like, man, dude, if you would have stayed, I'm sure, bro, you would have came back, averaged like 23 on like 45% shooting. But hey, he could do that in about 3-4 years in the NBA, maybe 2. The way these guys develop now, man. I mean, yeah, he could easily do that real quick in the NBA.
No doubt. So last night you were at Colonial Life Arena. Today the team is leaving for France. A lot of the fams have already arrived. The fans have arrived. And Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central on ESPN, the A-team will be over there. Ryan Rucco, Rebecca Lobo, and Holly Rowe for number 4 in the coaches poll, number 6 in the AP versus number 10 Notre Dame. You got to watch it last night. How devastating is Malaysia Full Wiley's Jay going to be this year?
It's going to be great. It's going to be great, Keith, man. I've said this for the past couple of years. I've covered high school basketball here in the state for about 5 years. The best male or female player I've ever seen in person is Malaysia Full Wiley. I mean, the things that she can do with a basketball. I'm not the only one who said it. Her own position, her own assistant coach now, Khadijah Sessions, has said this too. The best she's seen in high school is Malaysia. And there's a reason why Coach Staley called her a generational talent at SEC tip-off a couple of weeks ago. It's because the things she can do with the basketball in her hands, you don't see it. And it's just things that you can't teach, right? And the great thing about her that I love is the fact that she does it on both ends. She like in the championship game, the Class 2A, Class 3A state championship game a couple of years ago when they played Joyce Edwards in Camden, she scored 37 points, but she did it on she was 16 of 42 from the field. So she didn't have the most efficient night scoring, but she had 16 rebounds and 5 steals. So what I'm saying is that yeah, she didn't let that affect her. She didn't let the fact that, okay, she's missing these shots, she didn't let that stop her, one, from taking those shots, and then two, stop her from playing defense. And I think when you have Dawn Staley as your head coach, when you have Khadijah Sessions as one of the assistants, she's only going to get better in that regard defensively. She already has it offensively, but when she continues to develop that defensive mindset and that defensive mentality, I think you're going to really see great things from her. I mean, we saw it a little bit in the Rutgers game. She had 3 steals in that game, right? And she had 16 points. So we saw like a little taste of it. When I asked Malaysia about it yesterday, she was like, well, it was exhibition. So I'm just telling myself, all right, well, it was an exhibition game, but hey, you did that against a Division I opponent. And that, there's something definitely there to be said about that. The fact that the moment was not too big, the lights weren't too bright. So I'm really excited to see what she can bring off in the Gamecock second unit. I think she's going to definitely be that sixth woman that the Gamecocks are going to need this year.
I agree. I mean, they were showing some of the scrimmage last night, and Raven Hollywood Johnson was draining threes from all over the floor, and it was, to quote my man from the old SEC network, string music, because it was hitting nothing but nylon. You got Kahina Pow, who's a career over 40% three-point shooter. And you've got this dynamic duo, freshman backcourt in Malaysia Fulwiley and Tessa Johnson. Mm-hmm. Breezy Hall, Chloe Kitts can shoot it. Dawn Staley said they've been playing Sanaya Fagan some on the perimeter, which tells me at times you're going to see Fagan, Watkins, and Cardoso on the floor, and then don't count out Sakima Walker, who's 6'6", according to Dawn Staley, as a backup to, I think, the player that could lead the team and maybe the SEC in scoring, Camila Cardoso. This team is not short on talent, and they can definitely shoot the basketball from outside.
Exactly. And what was the biggest Achilles heel with this team last year, Keith? It was outside shooting. We saw it in the Final Four game. They were 4 of 20. I want to say 4 of 24. It might have been 2 of 24 from 3 in that Final Four game, because Iowa basically said, hey, we'll guard Aaliyah, we'll guard Camilla, we'll guard the post. We'll let you guys have whatever three-pointer you want. Teams can't do that this year. You got Tahina, you got Tessa and Malaysia coming off the bench. Raven has been in the lab. Raven, I think she hit the 2 threes that they hit in the Final Four game. Raven hit those and had 9 points. And there was a reason why Leah told her afterwards, hey, this is your team now. It's not only because of what you do as the assist maker on this team, it's because of what you do scoring. And I think she's been in the lab. Breezy Hall, she's been in the lab too. Like I said, you can't all of a sudden you can't leave this team open, from 3 now. Like you gonna, do that at your own risk now. And you gotta guard Camilla. We know she's been in the lab. We saw what she did in the AmeriCup. She won MVP, led Brazil to the gold medal. Not just the gold medal game, to the gold medal. And she was MVP of that game for a reason. She scored 18 points against Angel Reed's Team USA. She did that for a reason. Like she's ascended. She was really good last year, but I think she can be even better this year because she has another year of experience, and she has the confidence of the team telling her, hey, go get it. Go take that. And I saw that a little bit in the exhibition game. A lot of the shots she was taking, she would have missed last year. And she was hitting them in regularity in the exhibition game. And I think that's going to continue. And like you mentioned, the ability to play Sanaya, Ashlyn, and Camilla all at the same time and not miss a beat offensively or defensively, I think that's going to be a scary thing for a lot of these teams. So I think the word that people have said it, coach has said it, it's not rebuild. We're reloading.
That's right.
And that's what this year is. It is not rebuild. Going to certainly miss the freshies and everything they brought to the table, but it's a reload. It's definitely a reload. And I think I look at this team, compare it a little bit to the 2018-2019 team, but I think the difference is you have more returners than you had back then. Because that was the year after Asia left and everything. You have more returners than you had back then. I think the younger core that you have now, it's better than what you had back then. The culture, they know what the standard is. They know when you play basketball at South Carolina under Dawn Staley, we know what the standard is now. Remember, back then you were still cotton. You did win the national championship, but there were people who were saying, "Oh well, you had Asia Wilson, that's why you won it." Now we know, Dawn Staley is what, gravitates those type of players to play for her and play for her program. Now we know that. And Coach said it. We're a brand at South Carolina. And I think we're going to see that again, not only, on the court, but off the court. I mean, they're making history, playing the first game in Paris. That's really big time, man. So definitely excited for this season. I think it's going to be another exciting year and another successful season for Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks for sure.
And I don't want it to be lost on people that you have Raven Johnson, Breezy Hall, Camilla Cardoso, Sanaya Fagan, Ashlyn Watkins, all McDonald's All-Americans that have waited for their time.
Yeah.
Now is their time. And Chloe Kitts would have been a McDonald's All-American.
Exactly.
All she did was have a double-double. I mean, she is a Swiss Army knife, and I don't want to say she's feisty. She's aggressive. She will mix it up. She is not afraid to go in and battle. And I just think, it's a big difference from being the hunted with that big bullseye on your back to becoming hunters. Exactly. And I think this team is out to prove their legacy and their talent. And I also like the fact that you play in such a tough schedule because they will be tried and ready by the time SEC season rolls around in late December.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you want, Keith. You don't want to go into that and SEC play just scares you oh my gosh, the moment's too big. Not only is that tough schedule going to help them, but as you mentioned, players like Raven, Breezy, Ashlyn, Camilla, Sanaya, they've all played an SEC schedule before. They've all played against the best. They've all played on the level of the Final Four. They've done that already. So the moment, it's not going to scare them. It's we've been here. We've done that. Now we can bring the younger players along. Okay, this is what it's like. This is what it looks like and what this is going to entail. And I think that's just going to help you be better. And when you see those teams that you're naturally going to see, at the top of top level of college basketball. And I think, this team, they're not going to be fazed by the moment. I have no doubt about that the moment isn't going to scare them.
All right, so maybe as the team is arriving back from France, the early signing period gets underway, and there's a lot of fans that are interested in that I-20 East corridor about 30 miles from campus. Joyce Edwards, the number 1, the number 2 ranked player in the class. Dawn Staley already has 2 commitments, one of the top point guards in Maddie McDaniel and Adele Tack, who is a supremely talented post player, Mr. Junior Year. ESPN has dropped her in the rankings because of that. My man Brandon Clay with Prospects Nation, who also works for 24/7 Sports, he's got her ranked as the number 6 overall player in the country, and Madison McDaniel number 10. What's your prediction if you had to call it for Joyce Edwards? I know LSU was back in Camden on Monday or Tuesday at her volleyball match after her official visit to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Say it ain't so, bro.
I know.
I mean, Kim Mulkey, she is a coach, but man, she's got to face it, make a freight train, take a dirt road.
Oh man, I ain't gonna be like that, man. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, Keith, man. I mean, we got LSU in the fold. I've heard UConn. They're nothing to sleep on either. Yeah, I hope she stays home. You know, as like totally unbiased, right? Hope she stays home. Hope she's gonna be a Gamecock, but ultimately, you know, it's gonna be her choice. But if she does stay home, she does end up being a Gamecock and following in Malaysia's footsteps, Asia Wilson's footsteps, Ashlyn Watkins' footsteps of, you know, being great here in town and then staying home. She does do that. Once again, the sky of this team is just going to continue to get higher and higher. And then coach is going to continue to show all the younger players coming up, this is what can happen if you decide to stay home. And I think that would definitely be a great thing. And, you know, I mentioned Malaysia being the best high school player that I've seen. Joyce is right there, too. I mean, that battle they had in the state championship game a couple years back, one of the best. That was the best high school basketball game I've ever shot. I mean, it was just shot for shot, basket after basket, possession after possession, went down to the wire, and then, you know, Camden fell short and Malaysia and Keenan won. And I was so happy when Camden came back the next year and they won the championship because, yeah, they really deserved it because they were right there for like several years. And you know, I was so happy to see them finally achieve that goal. And then for Joyce, yeah, I mean, I've been following her. Same thing with Malaysia, following her since she was in 7th grade. I remember this story. It was like her and a couple of her teammates were 7th graders playing varsity. And I was like, yo, that's wild. And now to see her become the #1 recruit in the country and all these schools are knocking on her door is absolutely fantastic. So I know whatever choice she does make, she's gonna excel and she's gonna do amazing things. But yeah, hopefully it's South Carolina. But whichever it is, like I said, she's gonna do wonderful things.
No doubt. She would become a villain though if she went to LSU. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, let's just call it like it is. Dawn Staley, she's got a perfect record. The last in-state top-ranked player not to choose South Carolina was Alina McDaniel, Xavier McDaniel's daughter. She went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
But since then, it's been all Gamecocks, and hopefully the home team wins out. So what's your prediction? Give me a score for Saturday, Gamecocks versus Gamecocks. Hey, we know the Gamecocks are going to win. It's just got to be the right group of Gamecocks, right?
Exactly. No, for sure. I'm going to do they're averaging right now 41 points per game at home. So I don't think they're going to get to 40, but I think they're going to get past 35. I'm going to say 37-24 South Carolina. I think ultimately what's going to happen is it's probably going to be 37-17 for a lot of the fourth quarter. And then I think JSU is going to score like a late touchdown and make it 37-24. But ultimately, I think, to get South Carolina, it's tough. Like, I got to really clarify. I want to say the Gamecocks, but I can't do that this week. I think South Carolina, they're going to do what they need to do, control this game. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, JSU right now, they're top 5 in the country in sacks. And as we talked about, the Gamecocks are bottom 5 in the country in sacks allowed. So that's going to be a tough thing for South Carolina to do to stop that. But I think the momentum that they're building on defense, playing better as of late, defensively, getting the run game going with Mario Anderson, Spencer continuing to do what he has done all year, and the emergence of guys like Nick Harbor and hopefully even Tyshawn Russell in the receiving game. And I think another week for Xavier Legette to get a little bit more healthy and get right following that injury that he suffered against Mizzou. I think that all of that's going to help the Gamecocks and ultimately propel them. South Carolina propel South Carolina to victory in this one.
All right, Chandler, I can't thank you enough. You bring the heat as always. We certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day off. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and hopefully it'll be all smiles for the home team leaving after the right Gamecocks get back and get a win as they try to make it a November to remember.
Exactly. All right, Keith, as always, appreciate you, brother. And if you're at the game Saturday, hope you enjoy it. And if not, man, hope you enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, you got it, my friend. Take care. Thanks so much.
All right, you too, Keith. Bye.
All right, that is the 2023 South Carolina Sportscaster of the Year and WLTX sports anchor Chandler Mack. So, hate to end the show on a sad note, but very sad. Late last night, we had a death in the family, and it's a pet, okay, but it's a serious thing. So during the pandemic, Addison was in the first grade. School got, basically canceled. They were on laptops. And that summer, she couldn't play with her friends. Everybody was pretty much sheltered in place and everything. And she wanted a pet. And so we went and got 2 little guinea pigs for her. That was in July of 2020. And I got to say, I marvel at my daughter. She is amazing every single day. Her growth, her development. Brentwood Christian School really restoring her confidence and ability to learn. As you hear, the yard guys are early today, which is not supposed to happen. And so late last night, she had 2 beautiful little guinea pigs, one named Sunday. Sunday was the first one, because Sunday kind of looked like an ice cream sundae with kind of a light chocolate nose and then chocolate and vanilla ice cream. And so you can't get just one. They need companionship. So a few days later, we went back. They got some more in, and we got another one, and her name was Cookie. And so we had Cookie and Sunday, Sundae. And so late last night, we make sure they have water and food to get through the night. And it's about 10:30 at night. We went in there, and Cookie, bless her little heart, she was extremely bloated. And so she was just laying there and struggling to get her breath. So I looked it up online. We gave her a little bit of sugar water, called the 24-hour vet. Somebody had to stay with Addison. She was already in the bed. My wife took Cookie to the vet, and they did the best they could for her. And we brought her, Teresa brought her back home, and about 4 a.m. this morning, bless her little heart, she took her last breath. And so we made it a point to hide her and tell Addison that she was at the vet and kind of prepare her for the worst today. And so that's one of the things I do whenever there's bad news. I'm the one that breaks it. And so when she gets home today, we're going to have to tell her, and it's going to break her heart into 1,000 pieces, because those are her babies, and she's had them for over 3 years. And so say a prayer for us. I know to some people it's not a big thing, but I know a lot of you have pets, and when you lose a family pet, it's a big deal. And for her, this was her first experience with having her babies that she's raised and nurtured and taken care of and loves and spends time with them every day. And it is going to break her heart. And so we'll have to get a replacement because Sunday's already antisocial and ducked back in the corner of the cage under the blankets and not eating or drinking anything. So, all you patrons know I talk about my family because y'all are part of my Gamecock family, and I know she'll get past it, and there'll be plenty more pets. I mean, I've heard stories of friends of mine that's their dog is the only pet their daughter's ever known, and the dog's had cancer, and they, take it for chemo and everything and do whatever it takes. Because it would be so devastating for your child to lose that pet. And so at any rate, say a prayer and RIP Cookie. You were my favorite, and I'll miss you. And so will Addison. All right, that's going to be a wrap. I'll be back tomorrow. Next week, we're going to have Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports on the pod. You won't want to miss that. Sign up. Follow us on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars. Join our Patreon Gamecock family. Join the Garnet and Black Town Hall. We didn't have one last night because it was trick-or-treating, and we were out with Addison. Because there's just not going to be many more left. She's 10, and I wasn't going to miss it. So I'll be back tomorrow. We will play the best of the Q&A with the coordinators, and then on Friday we'll have our game day picks and talk about tomorrow we'll talk about the Gamecock men's scrimmage against Wofford, BJ Mack and his former team, and everything Gamecock sports related. So special thanks to Chandler Mack. This is Keith Alsep saying God bless and go Gamecocks. And if you want one of these beautiful Holderness and Bourne pullovers, they got them in the garnet and black, and the black one is really sharp. I'm getting ready to get one of those myself. That's going to be an early Christmas present. Go and check it out at bpskinnerclothier.com, located in the heart of the Vista. This is Keith Alsep. I'll be back tomorrow. Go Gamecocks, and God bless you all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm out of here.